The Force is what gives a Jedi his power. It's an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us and penetrates us. It binds the galaxy together. For my ally is the Force, and a powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us and binds us. Close your eyes, feel it, the light. It's always been there. It will guide you. The Force was an energy field that connected all living things in the galaxy. The power of the Force could be used by individuals who were sensitive to it. On screen, we've all seen what the Force can do. It can lift objects up and hail people around like ragdolls. It can persuade weak-minded individuals to do what the Force user commands. It can produce lightning from mere hands, can choke people without physically touching them, and the Force enabled some to see the potential future of their lives. However, contrary to popular belief, these powers are only a fraction of what Force users can do. There's a lot more Force powers that most are unaware of, and today I'm going to reveal and explain every single one of them. Light or dark, good or evil, hard or easy, these are all the Force powers in Star Wars history. Some of these powers and events are canon, some are not. Al-Chaka. Al-Chaka was an extremely personal ritual performed during meditation by members of the Jedi Order. The Al-Chaka meditations were a rigorous series of highly personal, highly repetitive exercises using both physical and Force skills. The purpose of the Al-Chaka technique was to clear the mind and attune the body to the strength of the Force, and was considered an advanced form of moving meditation. Nearly 25,000 years after it was created, Al-Chaka was still taught at the Coruscant Jedi Temple. Jedi High Council member Obi-Wan Kenobi took the meditations very seriously, becoming slightly upset when Senator Bail Organa witnessed his practicing while aboard the ship ferrying them to Zegula on a vital Jedi assignment. Art of Movement. Art of Movement was a technique taught at the Jedi Temple during the Old Republic. It could be done with the Force to improve its performance. It was essentially what it sounded like, a higher form of movement developed for use by the Jedi Order. The Order trained their younglings in this art by means of an obstacle course. A reflex and agility exercise, students were ordered to traverse a difficult obstacle course within the temple, while avoiding beams of light cast from the ceilings, walls and floors. Ayna-seff. Ayna-seff was a Force technique in the Hassat Jor family taught by the Baron Dos Sages on Doran. Like other techniques of the family, Ayna-seff suffused the user's body with a low level of electromagnetic radiation. Ayna-seff translates into basic as dead brain, as it made brain activity undetectable. To learn it, a small two-piece device was used, a Jora steel sphere and a charged plate. Attuned to the precise intensities and frequencies of the technique's energy output, the goal was to raise the ball in the air and keep it steady. Jedi Master Plo Koon and Luke Skywalker were also familiar with this technique. Force Bond. Common to occur between Jedi Masters and their apprentices, a Force Bond, also known as Force Chain or Jedi Kinship, was a link through which two Force sensitives could influence each other. It allowed the communication of feelings, thoughts and images across distances and granted greater coordination in battle. Through such connections, the Force easily flowed, sometimes allowing one's will to bolster the strengths of the other or possibly to draw upon their strengths. It was rumoured that Revan studied Force bonding deeply during his many apprenticeships before leaving for the Mandalorian Wars, and according to HK-47, he speculated that many Jedi did not fully form such connections because of their discipline, because they were forbidden to open their lives to the passions around them, and therefore few of them even realised the extent to which it was possible. Darth Nihilus supposedly took this practice to unmatched levels, able to touch all life on one planet, to form and consume connections with countless people at once. Force Call. Force Call was a powerful Force technique utilised by only the strongest of Force sensitives due to the amount of energy required to use this power. Utilising the Force, a Jedi could call other Jedi to his or her position. This amounted to a shout that echoed throughout the Force itself. For those who heard this summons, it would be nearly impossible to resist. Cleanse. This was an application of the Force performed by Jaden Core. After taking the defeated Cam Solusa clone Alpha's unstable red lightsaber, Jaden decided to make his own. Reluctant to use a red crystal and not wanting an inadequate blade, Core removed the crystal and cleansed it of all impurities, fixing the blade and changing the colour from red to yellow. Jaden was especially pleased with the colour change due to the fact that a yellow blade was traditionally associated with Jedi Sentinels, who balanced Force powers with lightsaber combat, something that fit Jaden's style just perfectly. Cleansed Mind. Cleansed Mind was a crucial force power that was employed by Jedi Counselors of the Jedi Order. It allowed a member of the Jedi Counselors to negate an ongoing mind-affecting force power from themselves or an ally within their line of sight. Dampen Force. Dampen Force was a technique used to block the force powers of others through use of the Force. When used, it was sometimes referred to as a cold, wet blanket. However, it didn't block the entire use of the Force and was temporary. Anakin Skywalker could use this power. Dreambubble. Dreambubble was the term used by the Jedi Knights to describe the state of deep dreaming that often accompanied a Force-induced hibernation. Although the Jedi who went into hibernation were not technically asleep, they could still dream, and the experience of dreaming while in hibernation was described as being in a self-contained bubble. Floating Meditation. Floating meditation, also known as rising meditation, was a Jedi meditation technique where one meditated while using the Force to float several inches off the ground. Often, surrounding objects would revolve around the Force user. Luke Skywalker used this same technique while undergoing training on Dagobah. Force Clouding. Force clouding was a Force technique used by the Sith, particularly those who belonged to the Order of the Sith Lords, to mask their dark side powers when in the presence of the Jedi. The individual would pull their dark powers into themselves and adopt a mask of insignificance. This projected illusion would enable a Sith to hide in plain sight whenever they would go out in public. By concealing their connection to the dark side of the Force, Sith Masters and their apprentices would be able to move about and interact with the members of the Jedi when necessary and without fear of discovery. This is how Darth Sidious was able to hide himself from the Jedi for so many years. Force Generation. Force Generation was a Force power that allowed a Force user to generate the living Force from his surrounding environment to aid him in his task by looking deeper into the power of the Force. Force Jump. Force Jump was an ability of the Force that allowed its user to leap huge distances. When Luke Skywalker dueled his estranged father Darth Vader in Cloud City, he made use of that ability. Other Force users who could perform this technique were Qui-Gon Jinn, Anakin Skywalker, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Force Orb was a Force power capable of creating a bubble of air. During the Battle of Mon Cala during the Clone Wars, Jedi Master Kit Fisto and Jedi Knight Anakin Skywalker created a Force Orb around Senator Padme Amidala's head after her glass helmet was cracked by Separatist Commander Rift Hampson. Force Scattering. Force Scattering was a power that allowed a Jedi to imprint his presence in the Force across a specific area, making it very difficult for another Jedi to discern his exact location. Force Scribe. Force Scribe was an upper tier Falanasi technique that utilized the white current to inscribe words on objects. Once written, the inscribing would never fade away and could only be seen, read, altered or erased by someone trained in the white current. Conversely, the ability also allowed another to sense if scribing is present on an object, as well as where scribing would be on any given object. Force Form. Force forms were meditative battle stances that served as alternatives to the various forms of lightsaber combat. While all Jedi were taught to connect with the Force, and while most lightsaber styles relied on this connection to at least some degree, the Force forms enhanced the Jedi's power to feel and control the Force, allowing one to reach beyond what most could in the midst of combat. At the expense of physical ability, they were popular among Jedi Counselors and others who relied more on the Force than on lightsabers, even in battle. Around the time of the First Jedi Purge, there were 4 major Force forms: Force Channel, Force Potency, Force Affinity, Force Mastery. Hassat Jaw. Hassat Jaw was a family of Force techniques used by the Baron Dose Sages. Translated from the native Keldor language into Galactic Basic Standard, it meant lightning rod. The Hassat Jaw technique suffused the user's body with a low level of electromagnetic radiation. Because of this, if the wielder did not have the skills perfected and attempted to use them during a storm, they would be repeatedly struck by lightning. However, when perfected, they allowed the wielder to disable prosthetics and electric implants, interfere with shock shackles, become a range-boosting antenna for a comlink, among other uses. Ice Image. Ice Images was a type of Force power developed by the Doomed, the descendants of stranded Jedi and Dark Jedi on the planet Kesh. Ice Images enabled members of the community to witness events occurring in other regions of the planet. Force Immersion. Force Immersion was a specialized technique developed by the Falanasi, by which a skilled user could immerse themselves in the white current, rendering themselves undetectable by any means. organic, artificial. Only careful scrutiny could pierce the immersion technique, and even then the weak-minded would remain oblivious to their presence unless the Falanassi in question interacted with the beings in question. Masters of force immersion were capable of immersing others outside of themselves, such as another person or even objects, into the current. Life Bond. Life Bond was a force power that allowed a force user to permanently form a mental link with another person. Mind Probe. Mind Probe was a powerful ability of the Force that allowed the user to sift through the thoughts of the victim, seeking useful information. The Mind Probe was highly invasive, and those being subjected to it could both feel and attempt to resist. Though such resistance would be unsuccessful in a being without the power to use the Force, Kylo Ren, Darth Vader, and the Grand Inquisitor could perform this technique. Mind Walking. Mind Walking was the name given to the process in which Mind Walkers entered and remained in the realm they called Beyond Shadows. Through a specific type of meditation, their consciousness entered Beyond Shadows and left their bodies behind. Mind Touch. The Mind Touch technique used by Uno Fool allowed him to contact many Killiks at the same time. This call was based on the communication abilities of the various hives in the colony and was enhanced by Uno Fool's use of the Force. Morikro. Morikro was an ancient Jedi art that allowed its users to rapidly slow down the bodily functions of an opponent to the point of death. Master Yaddle was one of the few members of the Jedi Order permitted to practice this dangerous technique. Phase. Phase was a force power that enabled the user to pass through matter, such as walls and doors. Progenitor's Call. The Progenitor's Call was a force technique used by the adepts of the Order of Shacer. The adept using this power enjoyed a better protection from attacks in combat. Psychometry. Psychometry was the force ability of deducing information about people or events associated with an object solely by touching it. Whoever used that ability received input from sight, sound, and emotions. Restful Sleep in Danger. Restful Sleep in Danger was a Jedi technique that allowed the Jedi Knights to get much needed sleep while remaining aware of their surroundings. This meant the Jedi could rest while dealing with a potentially dangerous situation. Sand Levitation. Sand levitation was a technique by the Jedi that used sand that naturally occurs in the Galvidus cluster to make images like hollows. Soft to solid. Soft to solid was a Matukai force technique that made normally soft parts of the body become incredibly rigid and rough for a brief amount of time, giving the user a form of natural body armor. Sound mimicry. A force technique allowed the force user to imitate precisely a sound they had heard previously. Obi-Wan Kenobi used this power to mimic the roar of a crate dragon to scare the Tusken Raiders away from an unconscious Luke Skywalker. Taming Beasts. Taming Beasts was an ability of the Force that allowed its user to connect mentally with a wild animal. Tapas. Tapas was a force technique that allowed its user to draw on the power of the Force to remain warm in a cold environment. Telekinesis. Telekinesis was the ability to lift or manipulate objects using the power of the Force. For a sufficiently skilled practitioner, the size of the object did not matter. One could lift something as small as a piece of fruit to an X-Wing starfighter. Time drifting. Time drifting was an extension of the Ang Ting ability of flow walking, where an individual moved along the threads of the Force to travel backwards or forwards in time. If time drifters were seen by those they visited, it could create shifts in the flow of time by altering the visited individual's actions. Time stream. The time stream is a term used to describe the concept that time is a constant forward flow, and that flow can be perceived. Waveform. The waveform is a force technique used by the Selkath adepts of the Order of Shacer. Inspired by the oceans of Manan, waveform techniques allowed Order devotees to enhance telekinetic abilities by manipulating the natural wave patterns in nature and the particles of the surrounding environment. Similar in principle to alter environments, it was applied to a much more personal scale, bolstering force pushes and other telekinetic skills. Alright guys, they are all the force powers in literally Star Wars history. I went to Wookieepedia, so please go and follow Wookieepedia, go and check Wookieepedia out in the description down below. I got all this information, literally all this information from Wookieepedia. They are an amazing site if you're a Star Wars fan. Thank you so much to Wookieepedia for putting this information out there. I literally paraphrased and quoted literally everything here, so please go and check out Wookieepedia. And thank you so much to Bo Rai Cho Wins for the idea to make this video. Go and subscribe to him in the description down below, check him out, and show everyone this amazing list of all the Star Wars force powers by sharing this video. Drop a like if you enjoyed, that helps me out tremendously. Let's try and go for 200 likes on this video, that would be amazing. And subscribe to me for more regular Star Wars videos. Thanks for watching guys.